Welcome back, you guys. I'm FC. This is Blue Lines TV, and today I'm here to discuss everything Frank Lampard. Today, an article was released by the Daily Mail suggesting that there is a 5 to 6 man shortlist for potential candidates for Frank Lampard. In today's video, I'm going to break down the pros and cons to each one, giving my objective thoughts and opinions. But before I get into anything, of course, I have to address the comments in yesterday's video. I'll be honest with you guys, I was slightly apprehensive to release this, and originally, I made this a big edited video, but I just felt like I had to strip things back and just talk on the real to you guys. So honestly, I was so humbled by the positive response. It really energized me, put a smile on my face, I can't lie. In the comments, I've seen a lot of you guys that have been watching my videos over the years, so your words really impacted me a lot. Thank you for understanding me, and as I said, I want to be the best content creator I can, and you guys are motivation to do that. So honestly, thank you very much. And without wasting any more time, let's get straight into tackling this story today. Now, to start with, let's break down the article released by the Daily Mail. I have to be honest, as I was reading through it, it didn't have as much concrete information. Of course, the article did mention there was a provisional shortlist, so I guess I'd have to understand why there would be a lot of maybes, might, woulda, coulda in the article. The reality is that if Frank Lampard doesn't turn things around at a big club like us, there is no time. He will get moved on and someone will come in to replace you. However, when you break down all the conflicting articles that have been coming out from so many media publications, it does make it hard to paint a very accurate picture in regards to what's happening behind the scenes. Based on things I've read from Matt Law, who I might side with a bit more compared to other journalists because he does have very close ties to the club. I think that's one thing we all know. It does seem like the club aren't ready to press the panic button just yet, but being a club like us, we're not Arsenal Football Club. We're not going to wait for things to become awful before making a decision. We're going to have plans ready in place for any single situation. And I think that's always been one thing that we as fans have respected about our club. And the 5 to 6 coaches that are on the provisional shortlist are Allegri, Thomas Tuchel, Ralf Hasenhuttl, Shevchenko, Rodgers, and Ralf Rangnick. I felt that this candidate choice was very surprising. If you know Ralf Rangnick, he essentially is on the same type of tier and level as a Marco Bielsa. These are guys that are all about pushing and progressing the tactical ideas of football. Ralf Rangnick is like a football philosopher, football scientist. He was the first one to birth the tactical principles of game pressing back in 1998 with his thesis. And it's no surprise why managers like Rangnick and Bielsa are managers' favorite managers. These are the guys that push the game. They don't care about necessarily winning to get the points. That's not what they're in it for. But it's how they influence the modern trends in the game. The reason why I'm a bit surprised by why he's a candidate on the shortlist is because, most times he does take on a managerial role is when he acts as an interim manager when RB Leipzig are waiting to find someone else to sign. So, he is more of a director of football at this point in time. I'm not too sure how he would work if he was a potential manager alongside Petr Cech. I don't know if that would really work, but again, I feel like maybe this was a bit of a push and a reach by the journalists. But anyway, let's tackle the 5 main managers. I want to start with Shevchenko first, and to be honest, my immediate impressions were that he would essentially be an Avram Grant regen. In the sense that yes, he is the manager of the Ukraine national team, but it would purely be a signing made if Lampard did go, based on favoritism, based on a great relationship with Roman. Shevchenko's son is currently with our youth academy. His son is 14 and is part of our youth academy, so I could understand why there would be a connection. To be honest, I was trying to research some of Shevchenko's tactical ideas and principles. I couldn't really find anything, and honestly, if Lampard was to go, I don't think any of us would feel that Shevchenko would be a manager to replace him. So for me, I'm not really believing this story. Now, moving on to Ralf Hasenhuttl. Now, for me, and I'm sure it's the case for a lot of you guys, with how this guy has conducted himself in the Premier League, with how he's been able to make Southampton one of the best pressing teams in the country too, hats off, and a lot of credit has to go to him. However, of course, when you analyse the story of Hasenhuttl and how he started at Southampton, we can't forget that really bad defeat against Leicester City, where even though they did go down to 10 men with Bertrand getting sent off, to lose 9-0 is crazy, and it's one of the worst records in Premier League history. However, during that time, Hasenhuttl only picked up 3 wins out of 10, and there was a lot of pressure for him to get the sack and to be moved on. However, because Southampton are a club that give time to their manager, and because they understood what Hasenhuttl could bring once he got the pressing clocked into the team, we actually saw Southampton improve in the second part of last season, where they maintained that level, carried it forward to this season, and right now they are a very difficult and dangerous team. Reports say that Hasenhuttl would not consider leaving Southampton at all if Lampard was to get the sack, so if anything, it does explain why he's on the shortlist, because he has demonstrated that he has a very high tactical understanding. We've seen Southampton put off some unbelievable results, and right now they're a team that they don't concede too many goals. At the same time, they're not scoring as much too, but Hasenhuttl, Lampard, Tuchel, so many managers, again, they kind of developed their game pressing mentalities from the originator in Ralf Rangnick. So, of course, I like that we're being shortlisted with him, because for me, if Lampard was to ever leave, we need to sign a manager that also has those same counter-pressing principles. And this is where Max Allegri now falls into place, because out of all the managers on the shortlist, for me, he feels like the odd one out. Now, when it comes to his managerial career, respect has to be put on his name. Absolutely dominated with Juventus, winning Scudetto after Scudetto. He's shown that he knows how to work with big name players, and it's no surprise because Allegri, for me, is more of a pragmatic manager. He sets the structure of the team. He sets those defensive principles. But what he demands and expects is that individual quality to come from the players. And my thing is, could that complement what we have at the club right now? I like to look throughout history for comparisons to strengthen my points. And when Mourinho came the second time, I felt like his pragmatic ideas didn't necessarily complement the young players. That's why a lot of young players were phased out for more experienced ones, and unfortunately in the end, nothing was able to come from this. And I feel like this could be the same case with Max Allegri. I feel like could a lot of these young squad members be able to cope with the pressure and the expectation that would be placed on them, because they would have to take responsibility. I feel with players under the age of 24, I feel like responsibility is easier for more experienced players who have been able to master aspects of their game, but I don't know if that's necessarily going to complement what we have going on right now, and it would feel like a complete step back where, we're scared about the future, we want to turn towards what we do know, and as history has shown, in the short term, it might benefit us, but in the long term, nothing positive really comes. So, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts and opinions, you guys. Max Allegri, am I seeing something that maybe you guys are? I'd love to read it below. But now, we move on to Thomas Tuchel. He's a manager in the fan base that a lot of people are hoping could be a potential successor to Lampard if Lampard was sacked. Now, I can see the pros and cons behind Tuchel. Tuchel is another manager that follows those same game pressing principles, so that's a tick. He's worked with young players before. Let's not forget that he gave opportunities to your Christian Pulisic. He worked with a great young Dortmund team where he was able to win their domestic cup with them. Exciting players which he developed, and seeing how their transfer value just exponentially exploded sums up that Tuchel, of course, is a great manager. If you guys forgot too, Tuchel came very close to signing for us previously, and this was when we were in the market to find a replacement for Antonio Conte. Now, Tuchel actually came to the club, he held meetings with the board members, he was at the club, and he really impressed the boards by detailing his knowledge of our academy, his knowledge of the youth players, an extensive knowledge, because Tuchel is a very intelligent man. So it's no surprise after leaving a good impression that Tuchel will be part of the shortlist. His tactical ideas do complement us. He knows how to work with young players too. However, I do have some reservations behind Tuchel, and I did a lot of research. I was looking at his history at Mainz, his history at Dortmund, and of course his recent sacking at Paris Saint-Germain. And this is where you find some concerning things. It does seem like Tuchel's lack of popularity is something that is constantly held against him. When he was sacked recently, One thing that was cited was his lack of communication and his lack of influence in the team. Now, this does make some sense, and I found a very interesting article from Thiago Silva detailing, of course, Tuchel and his time at Paris Saint-Germain, and it did not fill me with too much confidence. Thiago did not go into too much detail, but you can get the vibe behind how maybe him and his PSG teammates thought of Tuchel. Thiago said that he knew the situation with Tuchel had to be changed at Paris Saint-Germain, and for me that's quite damning. As I said, Thiago said that the situation had to be changed last season when he was there, and he kinda implicitly sided with Leonardo. If you guys don't know, Leonardo, Tuchel, constantly back and forth, bad blood, and this is the repeated sign. Tuchel does not seem to do too well with upper management and the hierarchy, and after seeing how Conte's spell ended in Mourinho's, it does feel like we would be repeating the same mistakes from the past. Common criticisms that Tuchel faced at Paris Saint-Germain. Paris Saint-Germain only won 3 games out of 7, and this season in particular, they looked a lot more penetrable, conceding a lot more goals and picking up more defeats this season as well. He has been criticised for not being able to handle big name players. It's no surprise why Mbappe and Neymar have been linked with moves away from Paris Saint-Germain consistently since he arrived. And when I stress that he leaves a sour taste once he's left the club, Mainz criticised him, Dortmund absolutely despised him in the end, and it was the same energy that Paris Saint-Germain had as well. Of course, from a tactical point of view, just separating the managerial side from the tactical side, yes, I felt like he didn't really have the best midfield to work with. He found a great way to incorporate front three that doesn't like to press or attack. I guess you are going to be stifled if you have 3 DMs in your midfield. However, his style was a bit pragmatic, and he is a manager that loves to take tactical risks that sometimes pay off and a lot of times don't. I guess an example of his lack of popularity recently came in that infamous Paris Saint-Germain game against Başakşehir, the Turkish team in the Champions League, where there was that race row surrounding the 4th official and a Paris Saint-Germain coaching staff. Now, it was nice to see both the PSG players and the Başakşehir players, I know I'm destroying their name, supporting each other and of course putting pressure on the officials to get rid of the referee. However, the only person on the field at the time that was completely against that was Thomas Tuchel, who looked to find an opportunity to point the blame at the Başakşehir players. And Demba Ba came out after the game saying that he was not impressed by Thomas Tuchel, and I just think that with how we're trying to progress forwards, it is important to be liked. Managing a squad is essential for coaches, and I just don't think Tuchel, even though he is a good manager, great tactics, is the right fit, considering there are so many great alternatives as well. And finally, to end things with Brendan Rodgers, it's actually quite funny to be linked with him again, because before Lampard came and before Sarri came, a few seasons back, I was advocating for him to be looked at as a manager. Now, my reasons for that were because he understood the club. Of course, he was the youth manager back in the day, and his attacking principles, of course, complemented our youth team. And we have to understand, when managers are starting at the base level, at the youth level, that's when they work on their principles, their ideas, their tactics. They take that forward into the first team, they further expand on that and improve on it. But, at a base level, it starts with the youth. And with Rodgers, he demonstrated that he knows how to play a great style of football. Yes, he got criticised for, his spell at Liverpool in the end, even though with a worse team and squads, he was very close to actually winning the league with them. And what I liked about his mentality was that he continued to push on. At Celtic, played great football and of course dominated there. Came to Leicester City and he's made them a big club in this country. They came very close to getting a top 4 spot last season, and in a sense his principles in which he first worked with our club are the same things that drive him on as a manager. So again, he's another guy that I feel would complement things if Lampard ever did go, because for me, we need a manager that plays an attacking style of football to suit the players we have. To give my closing thoughts on statements, I do feel like there's other managers that should be looked at over some of the guys on this provisional shortlist. I'm looking at guys like Royce and Mönchengladbach, excellent manager. I'm ambitious. I'd be considering moves for Hansi Flick. I mean, when you're winning things constantly at Bayern Munich, I do think with Premier League money and what we can offer him, we could be a very exciting club to attract him. And of course, Ten Hag from Ajax as well. It's surprising that, you know, 3 great candidates like this aren't part of a provisional shortlist, but I think that kind of implies to me, after concluding all the articles I've read, that maybe some of this is a bit overzealous at this point in time. However, it's a constant reminder that at this level, if you don't fulfill your duties, you are going to be replaced. So you guys, that was the news video today on the 5 managerial candidates. Tell me how you guys feel in the comments below. I'm really interested to hear your thoughts and opinions. I love to read your pros and cons on each manager. I'm Nini FC. This is Blue Lines TV. I'll catch you guys later with some more videos.